On the 10th of April 2022, I started my own console challenge, a journey to beating every PlayStation 2 game. I've been collecting these games for many years, and one day I said to myself, why am I not playing these? They're gathering around, gathering dust. Games are meant to be played, so that's what I'm gonna do. We've already encountered some epic moments. There's been laughs along the way.
Oh no. Ah! It's actually pretty good.
And of course, a few tears. But one thing's for sure, we're gonna beat every PS2 game. So I hope you guys enjoyed the last 10 games for our special 100 games beat for the PlayStation 2 Collection Challenge. If you're new here, we've just talked about the last 10 games previously beaten on my challenge, and now we're on to the next 10. This is going to be for games 22 to 31. Welcome on in, and let's just get going with my overcap and breakdown for another 10 games beaten in the last year. So we're starting things off with game number 22, The Sims Bustin' Out. Started on the 4th of June 2022 and finished on the 5th of June 2022. Now, how does one beat or complete a Sims game? Well, there is only one mode in this game when you boot up the game. It's called Bustin' Out. And when you start playing this mode with your character, you will meet another character called Malcolm, who very much is angry or annoyed about the lazy Sims population or everyone in the game. So while this is going on, you are introduced to what can only really be the only true goal of this game, which is that Malcolm finds that everyone is lazy and is taking everyone's belongings and goods to teach them a lesson. So the main goal of the game when you start it up is to say, climb to the top of a career, and that is all we really have to go on. The Sims Bustin' Out is a game based on the popular franchise and still running franchise, The Sims, which is a life sim game where you're able to create character or characters and make families with them and live out their lives and do whatever you want in a kind of sandbox experience. With The Sims Bustin' Out, you only really have the option to make one character, whoever you want to make, and live out their life while we try to get to the top of the career ladder. I made myself, and we were able to start the game. So when you do actually get into the meat of the game and start playing, you start off living with your mum, and you're obviously trying to find a job. With this first part of the game, you learn how to keep up your needs, and all the other aspects of learning skills, and learning how to progress and get to further levels. As you do get further in the game and climb up the social ladder, you will be going to more and more different places. The needs on the screen right now, though, are very important to manage. These needs are hunger, hygiene, energy, social, comfort, bladder, fun, and then the general cleanliness and environment of your building. If you don't keep these at a average or an above average rate, your sim will have their overall happiness in the bottom left corner here plummet below into the red. If this happens, their actions will cause more mistakes, they'll perform badly at work, and other things. You need to make sure that you're keeping a balance and keeping control of this. It's basically like the life bar of a Sims in hindsight, really. And as mentioned before, if you perform well in your career paths, you're able to go to new areas. And there actually are some unique areas depending on what jobs you take. You won't be going to every location in the game unless you freely want to, or you actually explore and go down other career paths. It's completely up to you. But the careers in general, you need to follow, as you climb up the ladder, the career goal to get your next promotion. And you can do that as another menu option during the game. The career option bar that appears basically will show you what you need to do to achieve your promotion, and there are various skills plus other different forms of criteria, as you can see now on the screen. So on top of keeping your needs up, you need to manage and deal with these too. The skills being cooking, mechanics, creativity, body, logic, and charisma. As you go further and further up, you need to achieve these goals, but also, you can see the face symbol at the bottom. You need an X amount of friends during your career path as well. It's all an incredibly long grind. I think this is the issue I have with this game mostly. Sims is very much a sandbox game. Take your time with it, do what you want to do, and enjoy it. When you're forced to do a set goal, or, you know, do this, and when you're trying to beat a game at a certain pace, you feel like you're getting watered down, bogged down, and it can feel like a bit of a grind more than a sandbox experience. But achieve these goals and you're going to eventually get further and further up until we get to the mansion of Malcolm. Upon arriving at Malcolm's mansion, we are met by our mother again, and she goes running over to Malcolm and really teaches him a lesson. That's right, she gives him a good old slap to the face and shows him who's boss, as we are one step away from getting to the max of our career goal. Malcolm gets upset, runs away, and seeks and announces revenge, basically. And with that, you get to now live and relax at Malcolm's mansion. At one point I thought, is that it? Is that the end of the game? Have we beaten this now? But yeah, we were one career goal left still. And even on the menu it mentions here, because there are goals in the game you can do. But the goal is saying to get to our evil scientist max goal, max requirements. So there was still something left to do, and that's what we had to focus on. And as I continue to manage my wants and needs and get to my final promotion requirements, I travel to work one last time and make sure my stats are all in order. You've got to get so many friends. The friends is a massive grind. The social skills is also quite a big grind. But upon that final one, the game tells me I've hit my final promotion goal. So I guess I was going to call it a beat there. I was going to get ready to stop the timer. But suddenly, yep, there we go. A cutscene plays for your chosen career. There are 7 different careers in this game, I believe. 6 or 7. Anyway, with your final career beaten on your playthrough, you are treated to a cutscene and finally fully give Malcolm the revenge he deserves, even though he was trying to get revenge back on us. So, as you can see here, this is my unique ending for the mad scientist career. It actually involves another person during the playthrough. This is from the lab. You make friends with different characters. This guy is an evil scientist himself. You then get him to make one of the man-eating plants, which is one of the skill growths you can actually go down. You can keep making these evil plants constantly. And, yep, the final bit of revenge is getting Malcolm to get chomped on by the evil beast itself. And that really seems to be what the end is. I felt like this is the end goal, and I believe if you do speed run, this would be like a beat requirement if we all wanted to get this finished. But before wrapping things up fully, I just went over to this fountain because you actually get a gnome per top career goal you get. With this, I walk over to it and I double check the top mad scientist bonus gnome we unlocked for doing so. As said, there are 7 pedestals. You can go for 100% if you really want to get all the gnomes, but I was happy enough to see my evil mad scientist gnome do a little dance, and definitely was happy with the GG, unless I wanted to go, like I said, through all the rest of the career goals and try and max out every one of them. So with no true credit roll, we exit to the main menu where there is the credits and enjoy a final game beat and cool time on the game. So as I force the credit roll this time and we stop that sweet timer, we have a final time of 6 hours, 44 minutes, and 7 seconds. This game very much, though, could be so open-ended with how long you took to beat this, depending on your career path, how well you manage your needs, your upgrading skills, your social skills to make friends. And that's kind of the problem when you're trying to do this for a challenge. The Sims is great as a sandbox experience, as a casual playthrough, coming back to and forth from it. And that means this game is good in that way. But when you're trying to challenge a game like this, it suffers from dragging your feet through the mud. It really does. So, as much as I love The Sims busting out for what we played of it, as a challenge game for playing it through, it felt a bit meh. So it doesn't really... I've never really enjoyed it too much because of it. But that's the problem. It's because I'm looking at it as an opinion of playing this through a set amount of days, or day in this case, and not really fully appreciating it for that. But it is a good Sims game apart from that. It does chug a bit on the PS2. Maybe that's also a performance issue. But apart from that, it's an okay game. I wouldn't call it the best damn game out there, but it's an alright experience for a back-in-the-day console Sims experience when you only had this or PCs, really, to enjoy Sims games. Game 23. Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer. Started on the 5th of June, 2022, and beaten on the 6th of June, 2022. The beat goal for this one was going to be that there is a career mode. You get to pick whatever character you wish to play as. There's multiple different characters. I was going to select the one that stood out to me and play through their entire career till we got to their end level. And there was this guy called Donovan. I liked his stats, and actually I ended up really liking how this guy sounded during the documentary videos. So yeah, we will be beating the game as Donovan for Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer. The Kelly Slater Pro Surfer is actually a game developed by Treyarch. Yeah, what? Them guys? Yeah, it's the guys that you're famously know as the Call of Duty devs these days. But yeah, back then, Activision were pumping out some extreme sport games, and they decided to make a surfing game. And this is what this game's about, is mostly that you'll be going to different surfing locations and achieving the goals for each location, be it scores, obscure things like jumping over obstacles, but the end result for this is to go through multiple levels and achieve the goals on each one to unlock more stages. If you've never played an extreme sports game like this before, basically inputting different inputs on the controller, be it up, triangle for grabs or grinds or stalls or manuals, you'll be doing different tricks, chaining them together and trying to achieve really good scores. This game very much wants you to learn how to chain these combos together, and it separates you from being an amateur to a pro. And you really need to get this flow of this game eventually, because some of the scores get really punishing later on. So you got to really get the feeling of it and understand this game. I really enjoyed this as I got more into it. But then again, I've played a lot of these extreme sport games back when I was a kid. I've never played this surfing one. I've only played the Tony Hawk's games mostly. But yeah, this game had a good vibe about it, and it worked for the most part. You felt like you were surfing, doing some skillful things, and achieving the goals that were set by the developers. The developers also tried to spice things up. The problem with surfing is you're following a parallel line, or waves. You're following a set route. You can't go off the beaten path because you need that wave to keep comboing off. So they try to spice things up. There's this lava location, and the final location is this like futuristic space. You're surfing in space, and this is the flow of the game. So that's the only thing, that you're very limited as a player to enjoy and expand on what is in the boundaries of surfing. And I guess for a developer, it can be hard to make surfing feel enjoyable and different and full of variety. But as I said before, later on in the game, it is so demanding what you need to do. The final stage, which is a requirement, by the way, is on this space level, you need to get a score of 500,000 points within 170 seconds and without bailing once. Now, I'll just say that as a requirement is insane. It really, really is quite a task. And if you don't get this combo system down and know how to chain and how to get it flow and carefully land and constantly farming these points correctly, you will struggle on this. As you can see here at the very end, if you get sloppy, you only get partial points. So you've got to really make sure that you're nailing tricks, not screwing up the landing, but also making sure that you get the eventual goals on each stage. This is what we achieve for the final stage, though, that beautiful 500,000 points on the Galaxy stage. And this is the final stage, but before then, there are many other challenging moments. As you can see here, I'm riding the wave to make sure I don't fall off, but there it is. I achieved everything on this. Unlocked all the... And I went 100%, by the way. I did every beach goal on this. I didn't just do the minimum requirements. I went full out on this because I really enjoyed this, so I basically 100%ed Donovan's run. Sadly, this game isn't 100% altogether, though, because you need to beat the game with every character and unlock their movies to technically call this fully 100%. Still, 100% with Donovan, and that was it. The game wraps up, you exit back to the boat, and Donovan's movie starts to play. Which is something actually I mentioned earlier. There are a lot of intro cutscenes to world locations where you're surfing, and you get little documentary voiceover from, I think, Kelly Slater, and you get to hear about different surfers. For beating the game, we get Donovan's documentary video, a full one. You get brief introductions, but if you beat a character, story, and career mode, you get their full documentary video. So I was really enjoying listening more about Donovan, and yeah, it was good until, well, yeah. Sadly, my disc did not want to load the final awesome Donovan moments, so it crashed on the last few seconds, and I sadly couldn't hear what awesome news Donovan had to say about himself. So with that slight hiccup, we rebooted the game to check that I had beaten everything career mode. You check the map, and yeah, all the goals were beat. There was nothing else to do. And then I was just exploring the other bits of the menu. For also beating the game, you unlock a Bales video. I wanted to try and watch Donovan's documentary video one more time, but yeah, sadly my disc must have had a scratch or nick or two for his epic moment, so I had to just drop it and not be able to listen more about the cool dude. Still, there is credits, and we just select them and call time. The final time for this being 9 hours, 39 minutes, and 42 seconds. The credits roll. It's a GG there. There's not really much to say more about Kelly Slater than I've already said, though. If you want a extreme sport experience with the feel of Tony Hawk's, Kelly Slater and Treyarch do a good job together to make that feel like a decent surfing experience on home consoles. I think there's a reason why surfing games are very non-existent in today's gaming market. It's hard to make it entertaining. You can't do really much more than what waves are naturally good at doing, and that's slowly causing someone to move along with it in one direction, eventually towards the beach or wherever it's going to its end point. It's good though, it's got a good combo system. It definitely feels like a game if you play through it from the beginning to the end, that you're getting the idea of the skill system down and you're feeling the flow of the game. I really like Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer, but it might be a hard difficulty curve for other people. Either way, I really enjoyed it. Game number 24, Shadows of Rome. Started on the 7th of June 2022 and beaten on the 11th of June 2022. To beat this game, it does have a campaign mode, Shadows of Rome. There are 2 difficulties. I just went for the default difficulty, normal, to get this game beaten. Now, Shadows of Rome is a action-based hack-and-slash game with some stealth elements based on ancient Rome. And I'm just going to let you know now, from the get-go, This is probably one of my all-time favorite PS2 games before even starting this challenge. I freaking love this game. It's such a hidden gem, and there are a lot of things I like about it. I could talk about this game for about an hour if I want to. So maybe luckily we are only talking about it for a little bit. But I love Shadows of Rome. It does have some points that some people don't like, but I love the full package this game delivers. When the game first starts, you're playing as Agrippa, who is fighting in gladiatorial combat, and that is all his playstyle really revolves around. This action, highly, brutally, graphically intense, kind of silly arena battling. You're doing this because your father has been framed for the killing of Julius Caesar, and you're trying to get through to the gladiatorial events to eventually meet up with this person who they suspect is truly the murderer of Julius Caesar for basically a revenge plot. That's how this plays out. But yeah, Agrippa does all these action hack and slash arena sections, and I love it. And believe it or not, this game and its engine is based on another game franchise I love. Kenji Ifume is one of the producers behind this game, and if you've heard of his name before, yeah, he's that guy that was very much involved in the Dead Rising series. This game is the engine they used for Dead Rising, and you might see some elements of it. You might see some character models, some action, some different combat models and poses. This exactly was the game prior to Dead Rising, and believe it or not, this game did not sell well. So while they were developing Shadows of Rome 2, this game flopped, so they used the engine for the cancelled Shadows of Rome 2 project and decided to make Dead Rising. Now, the issue that some people had with this game is that you play as two different characters. You play as Agrippa, but you also play as Octavianus. And his whole sections are very much forced stealth. I don't mind the mix of the two different play styles. I actually really enjoy it. But yeah, if you don't like stealth or forced stealth segments, this is where people kind of got burnt out with the game, which is a shame. I liked both these moments. It gives a different pace and it's interesting, and you can do optional stuff with both play styles. If you want to, like I do, you can take out multiple guards and try and find secret coins. As you take out these guards and find these secret coins, you unlock cool, awesome, goofy extra bonuses, classic old school Capcom unlockable styles, and it just rewards the player for doing and exploring these extra content areas. So as I said before, with the coins you can eventually progress through the Shadows of Rome Octavianus part and decorate and upgrade your house, unlock goofy stupid hairstyles. This is Onion Head Octavianus. It's just silly stuff like this. You don't need to do any of this, you can just rush through the stealth sections, fair enough, but this is what I love about games where you get rewarded for doing stuff. Octavianus gets this, but also Agrippa also gets a bonus unlockable stuff if you play well during his plays as well. If you keep doing the optional arena fights and earn enough prestige points and rating points, eventually Agrippa's armor does also upgrade. So as you saw at the very beginning, Agrippa was absolutely just normal in a loincloth, but as you progress more, get more points and appease the crowds, he starts to get more and more fleshed out and stylized. You get this feather head style armor, but then for his full-fledged armor, once you really work hard and want to get the extra arena points, you rock this full awesome armor. Once again, fully optional, but stuff that I love in a game where it rewards you for hard play and working on towards goals. But as I said before, Agrippa's stages just really are the best meat of this game. You do arena combats, you do chariot races, there is so much fun in this game I love. Like, just the sense of being in Roman gladiatorial and chariot events. It's all intense, it's all zany, it's absolutely brutal and intense. And for a PS2 game, it was just so good. It's such a shame that this game didn't sell too well, but at the same time, we got Dead Rising because they cancelled the Shadows of Rome 2 project, so who knows what would have happened if we did get a sequel anyway. It wouldn't be a Capcom game also without boss fights, and there are plenty in this during your arena battles. Yeah, some of it can be really jank and awkward, but that's what makes this game what I really enjoy. There's some fun, zany, intense parts. You fight a freaking elephant at one point. This is what I mean. It's just so zany, over the top, unbelievably unrealistic, but fun. And the boss fights, the environments, the different change and set pieces, the sound of the crowd screaming while you're fighting and trying to win and prove your father's innocence, it's fantastic. And it keeps going till the final set piece fight where you finally get your revenge on the person who planned it all out and nearly got away with it if it wasn't for you and Octavianus. You deal that final blow to this Antonius. You will find out more about him if you want, but it ends with this fantastic final battle on a boat, and it's all super intense and really difficult, and it gives you that feeling every time when you beat these fights eventually that I've done it. Good God. This final fight is beaten, you best him, and you have conquered and beaten everyone in your way during your battles at Rome.
Welcome the penguin.
And eventually, when all is said and done, Agrippa and Octavianus can finally say that they have done it. They have saved Rome's integrity. Julius has been avenged, and now Octavianus, who you'll find out if you want to play this, has involvements in the city and decides he is now going to help Rome become a new and prosperous city. And as that happens, the game pans away with one final shot over the marvelous Rome, and the game is beaten. The credits start rolling, and I have beaten the wonderful Shadows of Rome yet again. The final time being 17 hours, 53 minutes, 37 seconds. I did a lot of action arena combat stuff. I took my time and did the extra content for stealth sections, so this is a bit more of a fleshed out time. I'd say maybe if you just wanted to play the game at a normal pace without doing extra stuff, probably take you about, what, 12, maybe 15 hours? But still, you heard what I've already said before the credits start rolling. I love this game. If you like Dead Rising 1 and 2, I'd say give this game a go if you can. If you missed out on this, check it out. I think you have a good time. It's a little bit difficult in some sections. The stealth can get a bit annoying if you don't like that. If you can look past it though, Shadows of Rome is a beautiful blend of a Capcom title that really is hidden away on the PS2. We'll never get a remaster of this, I don't think, and just check it out. If you want some Dead Rising beta gameplay, come here and enjoy this. Shadows of Rome is a beautiful hidden gem, and I think more people should definitely check it out when they can. Game 25, Black Market Bowling, started on the 12th of June 2022 and beaten on the 13th of June 2022. Now, Black Market Bowling is one of the classic examples of we in the challenger community don't really know how you can consider this a beat game. From what I have played from multiple different attempts on this, there is no real credits. So when I first got this game booted up, there was a game called Challenge Mode, and there are 6 unlockable characters. So my original concept of how to beat this was just going to go through Challenge Mode and play as much as I could of this game until I had basically, fleshed out and got every character unlocked, and that was all really I could consider a beat on this. What else was there to do? It's what you probably would do if you got this game back in the day, maybe even now. You go, oh, at least I unlocked all the characters. I got my money's worth. I enjoyed the game, beat the game, attempted all the different lanes, and unlocked all these characters. So that is what I put down as my challenge. So there are multiple characters with different stats, and there is challenge mode, which we're going to attempt 6 lanes, and everyone has a signature character behind it. And we go into the first competition and go through and do just that. Bowling, if you've never played it before, there are 10 pins standing up, and you have 10 games to try and get the best overall score. Between that, there are things called spares by knocking down all the pins within 2 rounds, or a strike, knocking down all the pins in 1 round. Do that, and over the progress of the game, whoever has the most points at the end of it is the overall winner. In this game, you have a shot meter and spin meter. You control the ball as your character and try to knock down the pins. There's nothing more to say and be done about it. That's what it is. And that's what you go through this game. I can't explain any more than that. We won lanes, we beat characters, and unlocked characters as we went through. It's a basic budget title, so what more could you expect, really? But it wouldn't be a classic shovelware, cash grab, quick, cheap budget title on the PS2 without some sort of glitch or error. And during this game, yeah, this is what happened a couple of times on real hardware. A literal blue screen of death. It must have been a collision with the pins or something wrong with my disc, but every now and then, about a couple of times, the game would go absolutely mental and do this weird white screen of death, and I would have to reboot the game and go back to the progress of my challenge. So I continued to go through the different lanes, the different competitions, and I beat all 6 characters. It wasn't too hard. You can save in the middle of matches even if it goes wrong, so you can load back up in the middle of games to recover from any mistakes. It's really not too bad of a game, this, for difficulty, but it's just very basic. The AI tries to get a bit better near the end, but it's nothing too punishing. And then with that, I was looking through what else could possibly be done. It was just the same thing over again. All the characters were now unlocked. Competitions were all done. There are a few other things like match play and tournament mode, but I was very much content. I couldn't think or find anything else to unlock, so I was about to call time. So as I was about to call time, I was looking through the different music credits and credits in general, and there is one extra map. Monster Bowl. I was confused. I didn't unlock it now, and I was like, why is there a Monster Bowl lane on here? And we looked online after doing this, and supposedly, if you win on all the different competition modes, you unlock a night mode lane. And supposedly, if you unlock night mode lane, on each one, you get Monster Bowl. Was this true? Was this just a fake thing on the internet? I couldn't find any evidence on YouTube about it, so I thought, oh, should we really go for it? But you know what? I was curious, so I did go and into a competition mode to see if there really was night lanes even in existence on the disc. So I checked it out, finally went through one of the modes, and lo and behold, yeah, look, we unlocked a nighttime mode. So maybe what was said online was actually quite true. I was also curious if you got anything from going through tournament mode. It's a lot longer and fleshed out, the tournament mode, though. So you go through multiple rounds and try and win every round. What happens if you win tournament mode? You supposedly unlock character skins, but they are such a poor excuse of character skins that they are literal palette swaps. There is no utter difference between it. So one of the modes supposedly unlocks nighttime mode, but one of the modes unlocks character skins, so you can try and make them look slightly different. I was a little bit disappointed with this, honestly. Absolutely no differences, but we're going to get for a budget title. Yeah, that was that. But you know what? I called time. I unlocked one lane, one character skin. I thought, we don't need to worry about it. I don't think Zombie Lane exists. I call time there and then. You know what? Not a year later, I wasn't happy. That's right. On the 23rd of June, 2023, I came back to Black Market Bowling. I wasn't happy in myself. As this challenge went on, Black Market Bowling left a stain in my challenge. I didn't feel like I actually beat this game. That Zombie Lane, I wanted to prove it was there, and I was going to go back, revisit this game, nearly a year later, and try and prove and find if the Monster Bowl lane truly existed on the disc. So we nearly doubled our playtime, had to go through a load of competitions and go and attempt every lane against increasingly difficult AI to find out and unlock all these night lanes. We got through all 6 lanes and beat the final lane to see what happens once I get all night lanes. So, does anything happen? Well, as I pressed the X button to continue, there it was. Monster Bowl does exist and was on the content of the disc. It got me excited. I was happy. This was going to be the beat goal. This lane exists, and we're going to go and have a game on this lane now that we worked so hard for it to just have a good old little bit of fun time and finish off this game with a zombie mash. This was it. This was it. So here it was in all its glory, Monster Bowl, and you fight zombified versions of all the different bowlers if you want on this lane. It was pretty eerie. I loved that I worked hard for this. It seems silly maybe to some, but hey, sometimes maybe even a Midas published game can have some little hidden goodies on it, and this one did. Sure, it took a lot longer, but why not enjoy this final zombie lane and have a little bit of a good time while doing so. This was fine. Normal bowling, except I found that the zombie bowlers on this lane seem to have like an incredible throwing arm. They throw the ball like it's a freaking cannon and just absolutely demolish the pins. Still, it made it a bit of a challenge, and we do eventually win the tournament with flying colors. And the game suddenly just goes to the menu. There is nothing else unlocked. I thought maybe unlock zombie bowlers, something extra for doing that. It's nothing. It is the final swan song for unlocks, not including like hidden extra costumes and some bowling balls. I was happy very much with this being the beat goal. I didn't even realize, but every character does come with a bowling skin upon unlocking Monster Bowl 2. I wish the game told me this. I would have used Easy Duds as a zombie, but look, every character here has a zombie costume, and I was absolutely happy as all hell to call it done and dusted. Overall, this was my beat goal, and I was one happy chappy to call it said and done. So I was very much happy and done with this now. Over the course of a year, pretty much, with 2 multiple playthroughs, I unlocked everything that I considered a good beat goal for my opinion. Zombie lane, all characters, and even goofy costumes. It's a very basic game. Do I think anyone should go out and play this? No, it's very bare bones. This game we were finally beat at 8 hours, 24 minutes, and 32 seconds. I was happy, calling time, GG's all round, and the bowling lanes are closed finally once and for all. Game 26. Stealth Force: The War on Terror. Started on the 13th of June 2022 and finished on the 13th of June 2022. Like most games on the story mode, this game has 3 different difficulty settings. Normal mode, boot it up, let's get this game beaten like always, shall we? Stealth Force: War on Terror is a first-person shooter published by Midas. Back-to-back Midas games. We just played one, Black Market Bowling. Now this, just a luck of the draw sometimes, isn't it? With the old wheel deciding the channel votes. But yeah, we went deep dived into Stealth Force. And oh boy, is this game rough around the edges. It's a competent shooter, it works, but everything about it seems a bit off. The animations, the shooting, the story, the level design, the enemies. Yeah, this is bare bones for a shooter, and you can feel it in the budget, but it does what it's meant to do, I guess, where you shoot and people do die, and I guess that's a bonus. You go through multiple different areas, and you're taking on multiple different terrorist organizations to try and prevent the war on terror. As you can see here from the screenshots, there is very little go by. You have the HUD in the left for the mini-map, you've got your ammo count, you've got your health count at the very bottom underneath. All very hard to see sometimes, but that's what the game offers you. The game tried to spice things up and change different scenarios. Sometimes you're in an underground bunker, sometimes you've got to stop evil scientists from messing around with uranium. But at the end of the day, it's point the gun, deal with the enemies, and hopefully survive the day. Game remains beautifully jank all the way to the very end of the last stage, where you finally have to catch up and deal with the final terrorist of the organization. We're at his mansion. He's sending these evil forces to stop this lone warrior that is bravely taking on these hordes and hordes of enemies, vehicles, tanks, everything. One guy can do it. One man army man's here to save the day and prevent the war on terror, as always. And as you epically get to the final stages of the mansion, you encounter the evil terrorist mastermind himself. We've got him cornered, and we ask for him to surrender and give up. We've won. It's time to call it a day. And as he slowly gives up, oh, twist events happen. It's one final shootout. I just shoot a load of grenades at the floor, and I win. Yeah, we just run out epically. It seems something's happened. He's dead. Helicopter comes in, and I start going, wait, is this how they end this game? Is this how things wrap up? Is this it? All of this just leads to this moment? And yeah, that's it. Stealth Force War on Terror. What else is there to say apart from that? It is an absolutely crazy short feature-length game. My goodness. I mean, with my brief overview, I think you already know what I'm going to say about this game. It's incredibly budget. Insanely budget. What a short game as well. 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 29 seconds. A brilliant, quick beat if you want to start off your console challenges, whatever it is, however it is. This was a full release game. This is what you get. You get like 7 levels of high intense first person gameplay. There is no more to say. It's incredibly jank, it's incredibly budget, and it is incredibly short. People back in the day probably spent quite a king's ransom to play this game full price and be bitterly disappointed with how short the game was. Do I think you should go out and play this if you are a PS2 collector and want to check out a first-person shooter game? Not really, but if you want to experience some classic published Midas entertainment, by all means, check out Stealth Force. It's a game that can be beat over slices of pizza, a couple of beers, and call it a day there and then. Game number 27, Madden NFL 2001, started on the 13th of June 2022 and finished on the 14th of June 2022. For the beat requirements for this game, Madden has a season mode, so we were going to beat the season mode with a football team. I chose the Rams for this playthrough. Also, the default difficulty was set to Pro. I lowered it to Rookie mode. Obviously, it's my first Madden game. I wanted to understand the game. I'll explain more about that later. And I set the quarter times to 2 minutes, just because of the amount of football we were going to be playing. At least I'm playing 8 minutes of football for multiple different seasons, especially if I have to save and load. I thought, after a little chat with other people, it was a fair balance. We went with this setup for this playthrough. Now, to the sports fans out there, Madden is based on American football. It's a very hugely popular sports in North America. And yeah, it was a sports I've never played until this challenge, so I had to play and understand it. I can't explain the rules to you even now, sadly, because this was my first ever experience. And the problem with sports games when you play them is developers expect that you know how to play the game most of the time. So there's no tutorial for Madden. I had to slowly learn the rules of the game, a little bit of help from chat, thanks to everyone that was there during this playthrough, to explain the rules and how to play, to get points, to set up play styles. It was all very hard for me. And eventually I found a play style, maybe not the best one, but I found something that worked when I was playing Madden. I tried kicking the ball, passing the ball, and everything to try and get points, and finally, my saving grace, the legend himself, Falk, showed his colors for me. This guy carried me throughout the whole game, and this was my playstyle. Get the ball to him and charge down the field. Falk was my man, he was the Ram of the game, and he was bringing home the points that I needed throughout my experience. don't fault the fork. It really was how I just played the game and it worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? So this is, I mean, that's all. There's nothing really much else to talk about or show. I played this for my entire playthrough. Give the ball the fork and run. Give the ball the fork and run. And I kept doing it, earning more and more points, running past the enemies, running past my opponents, and getting those sweet victories time after time after time. I still don't understand the sports, like I said, but it got me through the game. It got me through the different divisions, the different stages of the season, and we climbed up to the top of the ranks. Up until the very final stages where you are given that beautiful "you won the Super Bowl" screen. There are no credits in this game. This is how most, like I said before in other videos, EA Sports declare victory on the people that play these sports titles. And that is the credits, really, to us challengers. We beat the game, the success video rolls, and we clock in the final time of 5 hours, 42 minutes, 35 seconds. What can I say more than I've said? It's a sports game that works. What I did made me earn points. I was excelling. I was going through the seasons. I was winning. And at the end of the day, it looked pretty good, actually, for what was the first of the Madden titles of many. And that's all there is more to say. I got to experience American football for the first time. I had fun. And that was the wrap. There'll be many more of these to come. Many, many more of these to come. Game number 28. GT Racer. Started on the 14th of June, 2022. And beaten on the 14th of June, 2022. The beat requirements for this was going to be that there's a championship mode, and when you start up it has a lap count and difficulty setting. With everything that was available on the menu, it seemed championship mode and the difficulty mode and the lap count on default was going to be what we're going to do, and that's what I intended to do until it was over. And just to let you know, once we did beat it on this difficulty, there was actually additional tracks that became available once we looked through other things. So once I did beat the first lap, I went into the game to see what else there was to be done after a successful beat. And to my discovery, there is a bronze, a silver, and a gold championship. So my beat requirements was that we were going to beat these three and drain all the content that was on the disc, and this was all that I could find on the disc that could be done. The GT Racer is a very bare-bones racing title. You drive around on different tracks during different times of day. There are night and day versions of every track, and what you see is what you're getting right here. You'd race against multiple different cars and try and get the best points in a championship. You can also probably see one noticeable thing. The physics in this game are very, very jank. It's very much a shovelware experience, this racing game. You don't really need to worry too much about your driving skills and how you manage the courses. You do a decent job, and yeah, for the most part, the game self-rights yourself most of the time on the track, and you're just having a goofy racing experience. Bare bones, though. Not really much more to say about it than that. Multiple courses we're driving around for, and there's multiple different cups, but they didn't really feel too difficult the further we went down into the races. The game gets very repetitive, and so it should be for all these multiple different race cups. So on my other two races for the silver and the gold, I turned the lap count down to just 1 because honestly this game requires literally no real skill. So after we did one full bronze race on 3 laps and doing, you know, just a full championship, the other two were just laughable, even on 1 lap. I mean, try it for yourself, you realize what I'm saying. There's no real punishment in this game. For a racing title, it's very laughable in its skill level, but it doesn't really matter. It's sometimes nice to have an easy racing title rather than rubber band nightmare in most of these sneaky 6th gen titles. And that's what I do. I just go through multiple different races, multiple different places, just goofily driving around and not really bothering too much about my braking or my cornering. And I eventually succeed and win all the tournaments up to being at the top of the leaderboard every time. We won cup after cup until I eventually won the gold cup. And you unlock some cars along the way. There are only 2 unlockable cars really in GT Racer, and that was it. I looked through all menus afterwards, and there was nothing left to do. There are 3 championships, bronze, silver, gold, no other unlockable content. It was done. It was wrapped up, finished, nothing left to be said. So I called it a win there. GG to myself, I thought. GG. So there's not really much left to be said, really. It's another short, quick beat if you want to get some of those game beat titles done. It's jank, it's really shovel-weary, and I called time in 2 hours, 13 minutes, 51 seconds. GT Racer, beat and done. Nothing really left to be said apart from it being a very simplistic, very cheap cash grab racer. One quick beat for those PS2 challenge runners out there that want to get a number under their belt. Either way, avoid. Game number 29. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses. Started on the 17th of June 2022 and finished on the 22nd of June 2022. Now for the beat requirement for this one, it has just one game mode, new game, so I started that up, but when I did start playing this, the game gives you an option between 2 different campaigns, the red and the white rose. This is based on the War of the Roses, and I decide that eventually I do beat both these campaigns. I will show you why a little bit later on, but that's my decision for beating this game. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses is not your typical Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. It has the rule sets of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game where you have to summon low-cost creatures to bring out higher-cost creatures, but it is a tactical, role-playing, grid-based RPG in a sense, where you assign a card leader depending on what cards you have in your library at the time, and you focus on taking down the life points of your opponent. This game does come with a tutorial to explain those rules though, so be glad about that. You'll be able to learn just how to do so and how to take out your opponents, but the main aim of the game in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to make sure you survive and you take out your opponent in a one-on-one grid-based tactical battle. That is the requirement throughout the whole game. Now, just like the beginning of the game requires a choice with what side you go on, the white or red roses, you are also given an option between 3 starter decks. This is a generated deck from the game developers. You pick one of the 3 sides. I looked at them all, and I like to look at the demon deck. Also, I always go with the dark kind of demonic looking style demons decks in any of these kind of games, so that's the deck I started with. And with the deck you're given, you have to go through multiple different battles versus multiple different characters on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series and try and eventually get to the end of the campaign. As I was using the demon deck, I was really not happy with the cards I was getting, and well, the cards you were given in the deck, more to say, and I just felt like I just wasn't really doing well in the combat. So I wanted to build my deck and get new cards. How do you get new cards, you say? Well, the only way to get cards in this game is through the graveyard slot machine. This mechanic requires you to do 2 things. 1, defeat the monster you want in your deck in a battle, and 2, win the battle, and then try and land one of the cards on the middle slot row. As you can see here, we've got an armadillo and the slot machine, and I wanted to try and get the final, like, robot at the bottom row there, but I just couldn't land on it. It's all down to timing and luck, and this is the only way you can build up your deck. So as said before, I wasn't happy with my beginning starter deck with the build of this demonic build, and I eventually found a map where I could farm for, like, the robot metal build instead. I was way happier with their attacks, the builds, the support items to combine to increase their attack. So I went with this build. I wanted to go for the full mech theme, tribal build, whatever way you want to go about it. So we focused on that, got rid of our demon leader, embraced the slot machine leader, and this is the main deck I went with in the end. I went with this robot build. There are ways to level up your cards. The game does not explain how to do it. It's really complex. We try to look into it more. I couldn't understand how to rank up my cards either. Sadly, this is a thing I didn't look into, but with what I did do and what I did focus on grinding on, this deck was doing what I needed, which was winning the battles in the future. So as we take on a mythical different retelling of the War of the Roses, I go through on Yugi's side and try and take on Kaiba and his forces, and we eventually do well with my robotic, super massive team of demonic evil entities. I take out and absolutely demolish monsters because I give them extra movement, which I find is super important in tactical games, but nuke the living crap out of everything on the map. And eventually we wrap up the campaign of the Red Roses by defeating Kaiba and the final boss fight. With Kaiba defeated and the evil entity that they tried to summon during this mythical retelling of the War of the Roses, we win. By the way, I didn't mention this before, but at the beginning of the game, you actually are a character that gets taken from present to the past to use your dueling skills to help out in the War of the Roses. Yeah, that's how complex and weird this is. You're brought back in time to help the past with this battle and eventually vanquish the evil with your power of awesome deck building and Yu-Gi-Oh skills. The final few opponents are defeated, the Book of Mystics has been redeemed, and as all said is done, that is it. That is the closing parts of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Red Roses playthrough. You save the game, and then the credits begin to roll. And as I said, yes, usually with credits, we call time. But I also said that this game has 2 playthroughs. So I said before to pause timers and stop them, what happens if you load a save file from one playthrough? Well, I do just that. On the main menu, you load your save file, and we are taken back to that beginning section where you have to choose what side to go on, the Red or the White Rose campaign. Quite an interesting moment. I thought, oh, so we get to keep all our content and we get to do this choice. But not only that, I feel like this is an intended thing where you are meant to play both games, or at least I think the developers want you to do this. Why? Because this time, when you are given the choice between Red or White Rose, you are locked in. You cannot change to go from white to red anymore. As you can see here on the controller, neither option can be changed between. I thought, right, that's it. If the game's telling you and forcing you to go down the other path, that's going to be my cool full beat requirement. I'm going to go the full shebang and do both sides. So with the meta deck I made for my robots, I'm able to squash Yugi, take him out. Then we have to redo the Stonehenge fight again where the evil demon guy gets summoned. And the robot army squash him as well to take both the campaign playthroughs to their end. Yugi was happy in the Battle of the Red Roses, but this time Kaiba is over the moon that we help him out in this timeline for his sake, and we are able to wrap up both playthroughs with a pretty decent time at the end of it. And as we say goodbye, the credits begin to roll. As the credits ran by a second time, we had successfully beaten Yu-Gi-Oh! And this game's a really fun game. I will say I love the tactics of it. I really like the different twist of it, of like using grid movement and leaders to, you know, take on your opponents. Like I said earlier, there is a weird upgrade and prestige system. I couldn't fully understand it. I think there's no explanation in the rulebook about it, so I didn't go too far into that. But it didn't really matter because I didn't need to worry too much about it. I was able to kick enough ass with my robot team to get through the game. Upon loading the game, there is an option to go around the map and take on anyone you've finished or took on, and we can say that the game was beaten in 16 hours, 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Someone said earlier that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games are really not having a fixed rule set when video games are being made, and it only got really finalized later on. I think this is the point where they started to get the rule sets right, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Games are starting to, you know, materialize. But I love this game. It was a good twist. I think you'll enjoy it if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan or even a tactical RPG fan. Give this game a go. I had a lot of fun with it myself. Game number 30, The Summoner, started on the 22nd of June, 2022, and beaten on the 5th of July, 2022. Upon starting this game, there is only a start new game option with no difficulty settings. It just boots you straight into the game, so that was going to be my requirement until we found the credits of the Summoner. The Summoner is a Western RPG, very much like the vibes of a Fable game, but this is such a very early PS2 title. It was also a PC title, so expect this to play more like a PC game than a PS2 game. But either way, this game was actually developed by the same studio that eventually would make the Saints Row games. Yep, Volition. Now the game's a little rough around the edges, and it's not the most smooth experiences of a console game. And you start to feel a little bit of the jankiness or the ruggedness of the combat, especially the actual melee combat system, where there is a combo chain system. You need to input a directional button every time you see the chain icon. And combat can take a while. It can be very slow paced, actually, the combat in this game. When you first start to learn, you're doing barely any damage, you're dodging and you're chipping away at people. And it can feel a little bit slow. As you get the hang of things, combat might be a bit quicker for you. It is important to find gear, and it's important to level up and focus on a dedicated build and make sure that the build that you want to settle with is one that you focus on. Leveling gets very slow and slower near the end of the game, so it's very important that you focus on using your skill points in the right trees to excel in different abilities. But each character does have a leveling up tree and a different focus. Usually there's kind of limits, like one person will definitely be down mage and healing, one person will definitely be towards crit and heavy weapons and melee damage. But pick a choice you want to do, because weapons are determined by how many points you've got in these skill trees as well as armors. If you don't do this, you might be underpowered or low equipped for later stages. I myself found the melee combat to be pretty slow, so I went down mostly mage trees, at least for the character I was controlling. The fireball spell seemed to be a risk but also rewarding spell. It can target party members, but 9 times out of 10 it would target enemies, and I was usually wiping out enemies with my fire magic. So I went down that tree, I went down other trees with other people, but my playthrough was a pretty fair one with the choices I made through my play. Along the way, though, the game can be really sneaky and force you to use characters that you might not be using before, so be prepared for that as well, and a little bit of a heads up for people that do take on this game. Yeah, there'll be situations where you go, oh crap, I'm not ready for this encounter, but you've got no other choice. You're given the characters and only those characters in scenarios, so you got to be prepared and ready. So that's why I said make sure that every team member you make a build with is one that's focused and you're happy with. Boss encounters can be pretty intense as well, and there are some horrible, annoying gimmicks later on, especially a swamp level, where you're constantly taking poison damage while taking on waves of really difficult enemies, and you've got to be really on your toes. This is an end game battle you're seeing right now, but I'm pretty much prepared. I had pretty high level magic spells, but the most important spell, I think, for my party members was the healing ability. Group healing is so important. Enemies can decimate your party members if you're not on your toes and making sure that they're healthy all the time. Definitely make sure you have someone who is a dedicated, fully fledged healer while you're taking on all the different enemies of the game. It's quite the epic adventure though, the Summoner, and I don't have too much of a difficulty with it. I have a lot of fun. Up until the final boss, even he was pretty laughable due to a certain crit build I had on one of my characters. Just seeing the damage numbers fly, and once again, just had a good time. I was alright with the jankiness. I've played a lot more jankier games. Definitely you can feel the age of this game. But if it works, and I'm having fun, I'm having fun. But I can imagine some people would have got frustrated with this game, or maybe even hit brick walls of this game with the builds they go down. So that's why I multiply have warned you, make sure your builds are the builds you're happy with throughout the course of the game. And I slowly take on the final boss, and bam, take him out. He dies, and we suck his life force so he can never be summoned again. As the game does also wrap up, you're given a choice to become a god or walk away and reject it. Like the badass I am, I decided to go with the option of ignoring becoming a god. That ain't a job I want to be taking on. So, if you decide to walk out the front doors at the end of the final boss fight, you're treated to abandoning your responsibilities of becoming God and leaving the world to carry on as it is. The credits roll, and we can call the Summoner beaten. There is a sequel to this game we will eventually play. It's not within the first 100 games, to let you know that. But I enjoy this game. It's very jank, it's very old school RPG, Western RPG at that. I had a lot of fun with it, but with a final time of 32 hours, 35 minutes, 30 seconds, it was quite a meaty game. And the best finale is that this game has an infamous Easter egg based on a Flash cartoon. They redid it using the lines in-game engine. Enjoy the infamous Easter egg as we call goodbye.
Gallstaff, you have entered the door to the north. You are now by yourself, standing in a dark room. The pungent stench of mildew emanates from the wet dungeon walls.
Where are the Cheetos?
They're right next to you.
I cast a spell. Where's the Mountain Dew?
In the fridge, duh!
I want to cast a spell.
Can I have a Mountain Dew? Yes, you can have a Mountain Dew. Just go get it.
I can cast any of these, right? On the list?
Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room?
I want to cast
Magic Missile.
the room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet.
I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting
Magic Missile.
Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Stupid.
Fine. You attack the darkness. There's an elf in front of you.
Whoa!
That's me, right? He's wearing a brown tunic, and he has gray hair and blue eyes.
No, I don't. I have gray eyes.
Let me see that sheet.
Well, it says I have blue, but I decided I wanted gray eyes.
Whatever. Okay, you guys can talk to each other now if you want.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Gallstaff, Sorcerer of Light.
Then how come you had to cast Magic Missile?
You guys are being attacked.
Do I see that happening?
No, you're outside by the tavern.
Cool, I get drunk.
There are 7 ogres surrounding you.
How could they surround us? I had Mordenkainen's magical watchdog cast.
No, you didn't.
I'm getting drunk. Are there any girls there?
I totally did. You asked me if I wanted any equipment before this adventure, and I said no.
Hound's
But I
feeling
need
this
material
moment.
components for all my spells, so I cast Mordenkainen's faithful watchdog.
But you never actually cast it.
Roll the dice to see if I'm getting drunk.
Yeah, you are.
Are there any girls there?
Yeah.
I did, though. I completely said when you asked me.
No, you didn't. You didn't actually say that you were casting the spell. So now there's ogres, okay?
Ogres? Man, I got an ogre slaying knife. It's got a +9 against ogres.
You're not there. You're getting drunk.
Okay, but if there's any girls there, I want to do them.
And yes, that was written by Dan Harmon.
What am I being killed with? All you have done to silence the prophecy, Murad, has made it come true in the end. By this hand, I will... Anyway.
You gotta have the fake outtake reel as well. Game 31, Samurai Warriors 2. Started on the 5th of July 2022 and finished on the 20th of July 2022. Now, the game has a story mode, and the story mode revolves around multiple characters. So, what are my beat requirements, in my opinion, for this one? Well, if you bought this game, you probably would have beaten the game with every character, and that's what I do. I keep playing this game until every character has had a clear requirement added to their character portrait for story mode. There are credits at the end of one character, but anyone that says they'll play with one character, let the credits roll, and would never play this game again if they bought this, I don't know. think about it if you did this for modern games today. Would you beat the game with one character, then never play it again? It's just my opinion, but everyone's got their own rules for their challenges. One note is that on my initial playthrough with the first character, I played through his entire story on normal, but because of the mammoth size of the roster with all the other characters, for the rest of the initial playthroughs that we do for every other character following my first playthrough, I decided to tone down the difficulty for everyone else to easy. Just because it took 3 hours for one character, and obviously we just wanted to get through every other character and enjoy their story and content for every playthrough in a nice, more condensed manner. Samurai Warriors is actually a spin-off or another franchise from Koei Entertainment. They originally started this style game with the Dynasty Warrior games, starting with Dynasty Warriors 2. This is also classed as a Musou game, where you play as characters and wipe out waves and waves of enemies while trying to make sure that the objectives on your position stay intact. You've got to make sure that you don't lose bases, maybe make sure targets don't die, make sure people don't escape, but it's down to just that and heavy, crazy wave killing and boss fighting action. It's very much a favorite playstyle for a lot of people, and this franchise has carried on to this day with spin-offs including the Zelda franchise and Fire Emblem as well. Every character will have usually their own gimmicks, their own weapons, their own quips, their own little story, all sometimes cross-connecting with other characters, but usually they have a unique FMV during their stories as well to make every playthrough feel a little bit unique. Yeah, it's a little bit rinse and repeat, but it's just silly, crazy fun. Doing the new combos with the new characters, seeing what their weapons do, seeing what their character and interactions does, and I really enjoyed it. I can see why people find interest in this franchise. It's definitely a fun, crazy time. It's very brain off, take out the enemies, and just enjoy wiping out foe after foe, enemy after enemy, and that's it. Especially on easy mode, you get to enjoy the story, no real problems, and you get story content along the way. All while meeting zany characters that are based on real Japanese history. And this game series gave birth a beautiful meme that I have embraced for my channel.
Just that simple. It's just that simple. It's just that simple.
I loved how this kept repeating itself with how it was programmed. Bless Lord Nobunaga and his blessed voice. And the game keeps going on the multiple different campaigns, different levels. Every character has 4 or 5 levels that you need to beat to get to their final end goal, final credits, final FMVs. And that's what I just kept doing. Just casually going through, casually taking out waves of enemies and making sure every character had a final epilogue. And the final epilogue cutscene finished for the final character that I played with. And this was it. This was the end of it all. This would be the final character we needed to face for story mode to be fully finished. And I guess we could say that with the credit rolling, we could finish there and there. But just before I called time, I was told that there is secret weapons available, so I thought, why not? If there's a secret weapon for every character, let's look up how to get one of them, and then call time. And of course, it wouldn't be fair without making sure that my beloved Nobunaga was the person to look up his guide on how to get his ultimate weapon and get him to unlock his final sword. Mostly, the secret thing about this is you need to play on hard mode or above, and you have to do very specific requirements. I followed the guide to get this, and then Nobunaga was given his ultimate blade. It is symboled by like this weird golden background, but I was happy. Nobunaga had finally received one of the secret weapons that every character has available. I believe there are other ways to get it, or like there's other ways to look it up with the XL versions, but we got his ultimate weapon. Also, this game has an extra side mode, which I decided to take on and beat for one playthrough. Why? Because you unlock a secret character for this, just to get an extra character. There is a weird Fortune Street mini game based on a board game that we're going to be playing quite a few times on the PS2 Challenge. Hugely popular in Japan. There's loads of different franchises and IPs based on it. One's on Final Fantasy and others just based on the game itself. But I take on Fortune Street mode to try and beat the AI to get the character that I needed. Quite challenging actually. Lost a few times, but then again, it's a board game. It's down to RNG, luck of the dice, what you land on, what you don't land on, as most of these board games are really. But eventually, I do get lucky, I do win, and I'm able to unlock the secret character that is behind this game. It's this character right here, but she is only available in free play mode. She actually doesn't get a story mode, sadly, so she's stuck only to be available in free play mode. With all the extra content done, extra characters unlocked, all stories with clear requirements done, doing the bonus modes, finding one person's secret weapons, I was happy. I was content, happy to call time on 46 hours, 43 minutes, 23 seconds. I can see, once again, why people enjoy this game. It was fun, it's crazy, it's zany, over the top, goofiness, some serious storylines, mostly goofy, funny, laid-back vibes, but it's a lot of fun. Give this a go. Just do it on normal mode if you want. It can be a bit tough, especially when you have to redo a whole level again if you die. So, more for a casual play to get through this and enjoy all the content. Easy mode's great. Level up your characters and maybe check on more things on different difficulties. Either way, I can see why the Warrior series is quite popular on the PS2. There we go, another 10 games with this 100 beatdown challenge over the course of the year. Games 22 to 31. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown once again as we slowly go through these 100 beats and a nice overview breakdown as always. Scroll down in the About Me section if you want to know more by going to my Discord to hang out and chat with me, my live stream on my Twitch to see my live streams while we're doing this challenge, and my challenge doc if you want to know exactly the full details of the doc before the videos even come out. Until then though guys, thank you as always for watching the PS2 Collection Challenge. See ya in the next 10.